Yo, what's up guys, welcome back to the channel. And on today's video, we're going to be talking about something that all of us already know by this point, right? It's 2025, and what we're going to talk about today has been known probably since, 2018? But we're still going to talk about it because there has been some new research, or at least the research was conducted on data like quite a while ago, but the research has just come out. So we're going to be talking about super shoes and how they make runners faster. And we're going to actually get into some of the data, and I'm going to let you know by how much you can expect to get faster if you wear a pair of super shoes over a rare pair of like regular running shoes. Like before super shoes, what did we run marathons in? I know for me, it was the Zoom Fly, and then before the Zoom Fly, I think it was the Pegasus. I was definitely a only Nike guy back in the day. Anyway, that's what we're talking about. Let's get into it. Alright guys, as always, thanks for sticking through that intro, and I did come across an article in Outside Online, and that article is titled, "The Latest Research on Super Shoes and Fast Marathon Times." Now, of course, if you are a runner, especially if you are a runner that likes running marathons, then maybe you're going to want to listen up. Or, as I already said, I think this is something that we all already know, but I also know that there is nothing better than confirmation bias when it's something we really like talking about. So in this case, it's marathon times, super shoes. If you like racing and running shoes, then yeah, you might get some enjoyment out of this video. Oh, and by the way, I will place links to the article in the show notes below in case you want to go and check it out for yourself. And within the article, there's also free links to both of the studies that we're going to be talking about. Oh, and a couple administrative details. I will be running the Tokyo Marathon in 2025, at least I hope to. I've been injured now for, I don't know, 7 weeks with absolutely zero improvement. So right now I'm just hoping that I still get to run the Tokyo Marathon. But either way, you can help me get there by donating to the Ronald McDonald House. And of course, I will place a link in the show notes below in case you want to donate and you haven't already done so. Those of you that have donated, as always, thank you so much. You are my people. And of course, if you haven't already subscribed to this channel, I would love it if you do so and maybe give this video a thumbs up. And if you have the time, drop a comment. And it really seems like there's a lot for you guys to do, and all you want to do is sit down and watch a video. You know, ultimately, that type of stuff doesn't really matter to anyone but me, so it's really not that important. But let's talk about some running shoes and how fast they can potentially make you. First of all, I want you to cast your mind back. When did running shoes start becoming super? When was that Vaporfly 4%? I'm thinking it was 2017, and I probably should have looked this up before I just started talking about it, but now I'm too lazy to stop and look it up. So I am just going to say, I think it was 2017, maybe 2018. But either way, that was the year that it all changed. And since then, I mean, that was a long time ago now, what, 8 years? And now, every single brand has come out with just a super shoe. The original was always this. And this is one of the pairs of shoes that I have kept that I haven't wanted thrown away, because at this point it's like a Ford Model T. It's just old, but it's a classic. I just cannot bring myself to part with it. In fact, I still have the stuffing inside, just helping it keep its shape. Anyway, one day I may take these out for another run, but these shoes have certainly had a good life. Anyway, this is where it all started, the Nike Vaporfly 4%. Okay, so basically today we're going to be talking about two new studies, and both of these studies actually just reinforce what we already know. They show us that super shoes have increased runners' performance by between 1 and 3 minutes. Now, what's really strange, and you'll understand why it's so strange after we get to the end of the video if you actually remember this strangeness that I'm sure I'm going to forget to mention at the end. But both papers actually showed the women's improvement was 2 minutes and 10 seconds. And I know right off the bat you're probably thinking, well, Matt, yeah, that's obvious. They're probably using the same data. It makes sense that they would come up with the same number. But no, they're not using the same data. That's what makes it so strange. Anyway, one of the papers is from World Athletics. The other one is from a bunch of research students at Cornell University. And also, funnily enough, and I think this is actually quite funny, because even though the women's marathon times had the same amount of improvement at 2 minutes and 10 seconds, the two papers differ in who they find do better, so men or women. And in one paper they found that the women do better, and in another paper they found that the men do better. So clearly, again, we're using different numbers. I suppose that's not that surprising, but it's also good for each and every one of us, because I think most of us probably fall into that bracket of being either a man or a woman. So either way, we're winning. We just have to focus on the paper that says that we're fastest. Isn't that great? Well, hold on, let me think what I just said. No, not fastest, but shown the most improvement. And actually, now I think about it, if women are running just overall slower than men, does that mean that they are actually improving more as a percentage of their time? That would also make sense too, right? women do seem to be stronger athletes than men. Even if men run faster times, and all is equal, the women could be statistically faster than the men. We know that women perform better in endurance events than men, so I guess that would also make sense. But I'd love to hear your comments because I'm actually not going to look that up or calculate it, so we'll just use that as a thought experiment for now. Okay, so getting into the actual studies, the World Athletics looked at 3 distances in their studies. Now, we're not going to talk about the 10,000 meters, but they did look at that, and then the half marathon, and then the marathon. They looked at the fastest runners from 2012 to 2019, and their study actually concluded that advanced footwear technology, so you got to think, at the time that this data was being compiled, advanced footwear technology basically consisted of these shoes, right, the 4%. And the World Athletics study did conclude that women in the marathon distance had the biggest improvement. And I've already mentioned it a couple times, but the women improved by 2 minutes and 10 seconds, and the men improved by an average of 1 minute and 3 seconds. Now, when we look at the half marathon in that same kind of subset of the best runners in the world, women improved by 1 minute and 1 second, and the men only improved by 15 seconds. And get this, the improvements were actually equal across African and non-African runners. And the African runners actually made up 87% of the group for the men, and we're talking about the top runners in world athletics, and 72% for the women. Now, get this, we are looking at averages, right? These improvements are averages, but World Athletics was able to find just a few men and women that raced 1 year in non-super shoes, and then either a year or a couple years later, they then raced in super shoes. So they were able to see the difference between the same runner running in non-super shoes and super shoes. And with those runners that actually ran in both, the women improved by 2 minutes and 1 second, the men improved by 1 minute and 42 seconds. Now I'm going to put this graph on your screen right now, and this graph shows the average of the 20 best marathon times by year from 2012 to 2019. And we can clearly see that there has been a big improvement. Well, actually, no, I take that back. Maybe not a big improvement, but there has been an improvement. And I suppose, an improvement is better than not improving. Let's move over to the Cornell University study, and they analyzed the results from 22 marathons around North America. Now, their time frame was from 2015 to 2019, so again, we are getting that cross-section of pre-super shoe and super shoe, and the runners in that study had bests of 224 for the men and 245 for the women, so substantially slower than the very best, the World Athletics sample of the very best runners in the world. And overall, they found that the women dropped, we know this already because this is going to be the 4th time I've mentioned it, but the women dropped 2 minutes and 10 seconds, and the men dropped an average time of 2 minutes and 57 seconds. Now, the article that I'm getting all this information from says that this Cornell study has been available for about 15 months now. So obviously it took them several years to actually compile the data and then just finally get it out just over a year ago. And all their data is available if you wanted to kind of pass through it, maybe see if you can find any holes in the data. I don't know who has time for that, but if you want to do, it's in the article. Now, the Cornell graduate students that did this study, they actually took the data and then they went through tens of thousands of photos to identify the runner and to visually identify what shoes they were wearing. And they said it took 5 of them an entire semester just to complete that task of looking at the photos and identifying the shoes. Now, you might think that's a lot of work just to find out the shoes with the runner and possibly how they improved their performance. But because they looked at that time frame of 2015 to 2019, they were able to identify that 74.5% of men who switched to a super shoe ran faster. And with women, 71.4% of women who switched to a super shoe actually ran a faster marathon than they did before in the non-super shoe. And they improved on average by 2 minutes and 6 seconds for men and 1 minute and 48 seconds for women. So that's where they've kind of flip-flopped between World Athletics and the Cornell study. Now, there's some unknown variables, right? Because if you and I were at the start of our marathon journey and we went out and we ran a marathon, and then 2 years later, yes, we picked up a pair of super shoes so we could potentially run faster in those shoes, but also our training would have got better over those kind of intervening 2 years, right? When training practices improve, we also get faster. That's been the story over the entire history of running. And then I'm just going to put this chart on your screen right now, and it shows the improvement based on the Cornell study between men and women running in traditional marathon shoes and then the super shoes after. So guys, yeah, all that is just to tell you what you already know, and that is, thank goodness, super shoes apparently make us a little bit faster. Now, of course, you've all heard about non-responders. Not everyone is going to respond the same way to a pair of super shoes. And now that we have every brand bringing out, at their own kind of super shoe with different geometry, different plate stiffness, different foams, we are going to find that an individual is going to respond to one shoe better than they do another. But I think we have to take that macro perspective and just think to ourselves, yeah, running in a super shoe will probably make me a little bit faster. Now I want to hear from you. I want to know what your experience is with running in super shoes. Did you run a marathon before the whole super shoe era? If you did, have you found that you ran faster in super shoes than you did before? And I also want to hear from you if you haven't run in super shoes yet. And if you haven't, this is kind of a good one. Like, what is your reason for not going for super shoes? And look, I totally understand if it's a financial reason, like they are all just prohibitively expensive. I totally get that. But I guess I'm more interested because everyone can understand, right, that they're expensive, so we don't buy them. Like, I would really love a new Ferrari, but it's a bit expensive. That's the reason I don't just go out and buy one. But I really want to hear your other reasons. Like, if you don't think they would actually work for you, or you don't think the benefits that you would get for them are worth the cost, definitely drop a comment and let me know. All right, I'm going to need a little help. I'm looking through like the text message to just see what emoji I should use today. Okay, I got a good one for you. If you have made it to this point in the video, first of all, thank you for sticking around so long. I know this was a little bit tedious, especially because we're only talking about stuff that we already know. But if you have made it to this point in the video, I want you to drop the fortune cookie emoji in the comments, just so I know that you've made it till, the end of the video. And the fortune cookie is, I don't know, I mean, it's not really a wish, but I suppose by putting the fortune cookie in the comments, I am wishing you a favorable fortune. Like, I want you to open up a fortune cookie and it to tell you, oh, you're going to run faster this year. And with that, it's about me. This has been a video on super shoes and, surprise, how they actually make us faster. Be kind, be happy, run well. See you in a couple of days.